Hey guys, it's Lavetta.
And it's Miriam.
And this
How are you?
I'm good. And this is the Notorious Women. Let's start that again.
Let's start that again. Okay, start it again. Hold on. I want to record it.
Okay.
I'm going to do this.
All right.
Okay.
Is that why you messed it up?
Okay, guys. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, it is totally why I'm messing. Okay, you guys. I want you to see like a little behind the scenes of when we're about to start recording. Nope, I didn't press record. Hold on.
Hey guys, it's Lavetta.
And it's Miriam.
And this is the Notorious Women podcast, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
That's right. Okay.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
You totally messed it up on purpose.
I did.
Yes,
I like to throw you curveballs sometimes.
Hey, it keeps it exciting.
You know?
Keeps it
right?
You're my
you
work
don't have
wife.
enough going on.
Yes.
Yeah, we're married.
We're married. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So,
it's true.
I am happy that it's the holidays. Obviously, it's my favorite time of year because people are generally in a good mood. And there's music and there's cookies. Most importantly is because of food. There's cookies and candy and cakes and
Listen, I got to start baking. All these baking shows I watch all year long. Like this is my season for baking shows. Okay, because it's like baking and Christmas, and I'm living right now. Like I'm in my little bubble of joy, and you can't break me. You cannot break me. Okay.
You're in your happy place?
I'm in my happy place.
Oh, now I remember Happy Place. I don't know. Did that come from Happy Gilmore when he's like, go to your happy place? Like, or was it a thing before Happy Gilmore? But
look at you memorizing Happy Gilmore. I have no idea.
I love Happy Gilmore. Like, that is my jam. It is the silly, you know me, I'm silly at the core. I look like a strong black woman on the outside. I'm not a strong black woman. I'm a total wuss.
I mean, like you are.
Nerd.
You also are.
No.
Yeah, you are.
It's all an act. And I'm really silly. And Happy Gilmore is the silliest freaking movie I've ever seen. Like, I love that and A Fish Called Wanda and Trading Places are like my 3 happy places to go to. So.
Okay. I've seen Trading Places. I may have seen Happy Gilmore, but I don't remember it. And I've actually am one of the 2 people on this planet that have never seen A Fish Called Wanda.
We've had this conversation before.
Yeah. No, I know.
Kevin Kline.
I don't think we've recorded it, though.
Kevin Kline won an Oscar for his performance in A Fish Called Wanda because his character is ridiculous. He's so funny. So if I'm in a bad mood, I'll put on one of those 3 or Harlem Nights as well because it's funny and silly. And I love to see black people in period pieces. It makes me happy. That's not like, not marching and I say, you know, even though I will say I watched, this is going to come a couple weeks out after the movie has been on Netflix for a couple weeks. Bayard Rustin's character movie, the Rustin movie. Have you seen that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, it's about Bayard Rustin, who was a gay black man who was one of the... Yes. He is basically the man who organized the March on Washington. But he was...
Like, I know of his existence. I didn't know they made a movie about him.
Yeah, through the Obama's company. And George C. Wolfe, I believe, directed it or produced it. And it is such a Coleman Domingo killed it. I hope he gets nominated. He killed it as Bayard Rustin, and it was just like a wonderful. The pacing was great. It was just like an inspirational movie, but also not like sugarcoating, and it didn't have that dreadful feel that a lot of civil rights figures have in their stories. But I highly recommend it. It was so much fun. Bayard Rustin was basically smudged out of the history books, even Black history, because he was gay. And
that's so interesting because I know the name because it's always on the list. Martin Luther King did this, and Bayard was there too. Is basically how it's written down.
No, he organized it. I mean, I'm not going to get into what the movie is about, but he organized it. And I love how they sort of like got into that. Like, how do you organize something so huge without it like slowing down the pacing? of the movie. It was highly enjoyable. Coleman Domingo killed it. And it's such a shame because so many Black queer people would have really benefited from knowing about him early on in their lives. And
right? Holy crap, that is
like,
100%.
And, he was specifically kept out because of his queerness. And he was also like openly and proud. Like he wasn't hiding or anything. Like
that's fantastic.
As it should be. He was as he should be.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was very interesting. He was raised a Quaker in the North and by his grandmother.
What?
And
this is amazing.
Yeah, so it's just really, there's a lot more stuff out about him now. I feel like in the last probably 10 years, but I'm glad he finally got the biopic treatment. So
Notorious women are currently making an exception to the rule. We will uplift a man if it's him.
Yes, if it's Bayard Rustin, absolutely, we adore him.
Bayard Rustin, we love you. Yes. I know you are no longer here, but.
But he also has a connection to a woman that we're probably going to cover, Coretta Scott King. Apparently, she met him when she was a very young girl in one of the many sort of I forget how it was. It an NAACP? It may not have been an NAACP, but one of those sort of Black organizations that were helping kids, go to after school programs, that kind of thing. And so she met him that way, and he encouraged her to pursue her love of singing opera. So
listen, watch that movie, and I have my holiday recommendations. The baking challenge on the Food Network. It's the holiday baking challenge. Let me tell you, there's some diversity. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because first Thanksgiving and then Christmas. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Well, all
right.
You're talking about all this baking. I expect some cookies, some cupcakes, some sweets.
You get your ass back to California.
I know.
And I will give you so many things.
Trust me. I am still stuck in Florida. And it is.
Yes, she is.
Florida-ing.
Yeah. You know what? It doesn't stop Floridaing there. Is that a new word we just invented? Do we get money for inventing words? I'm just...
Because Florida.
Throwing it out there.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we should get started. I believe you are first this week.
Oh my God, it's me.
Who do you have? Who is your notorious woman this week?
Okay. Do you watch... I know you do. But I don't know if you started the second season. The Gilded Age?
Absolutely. And I started this, and don't get me on a rant because I will get on a rant about the Gilded Age. But yes, I am caught up actually on season 2 of the Gilded Age.
I'm ready for your rant on the Gilded Age. I paused to hear your... No, we're not ready. We're not there. I don't know.
It's clearly... Listen, I am a Downton Abbey fiend. I love me some Downton Abbey. Mm-hmm. That was mwah. It was beautifully executed. The actors is amazing. The downstairs was just as interesting as the upstairs and vice versa. The Gilded Age by Julian Fellowes, who I adore, but he's an Englishman. And it's so obvious that he doesn't quite understand how the subtleties of American culture, even during the Gilded Age. And I'm watching it because Christine Baranski, Cynthia Nixon, Audra McDonald, and there's some fabulous actors. I'm kind of in love with the guy who plays, and Carrie Coons, who I adore. I'm kind of in love with the guy who plays her husband, fabulous. Even though he's a terrible businessman. He's a wonderful businessman.
He's such an asshole.
And he's an asshole.
I keep being on his side, and he's a literal devil.
He's a literal
I don't
devil.
Understand it.
I don't know. I think it's the actor.
He's
I think the actor.
Devil.
I think I'm in love with the actor, not the character. But I love how they're including the Black characters in their storyline, even though the way when they go down south is lit really weird. Anyway, but he doesn't understand the social norms and the nuances of Americans. And I think you can tell an English person is at the helm of this because the way that the Americanness is portrayed, it's just not realistic and it's troubling. it's almost told from an English person who thinks less of Americans, and I feel like that's coming through. I think that the actors are doing the best that they can, but it could be so much better because Downton Abbey was so good. Did you ever watch Downton Abbey?
Listen, I watched the first 3 seasons, and then when Matthew was so stupid he fell off the road to die, I couldn't keep watching it.
No.
I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I didn't like Matthew. I have done, honestly, when Matthew left, I was like, good. I don't really like his character.
Oh, really? Maybe I should start keep going with season 4.
Yeah, but I just
love his mother.
I love his mother, and of course, oh God, what's our lady? Older, the place the.
Oh yeah, what's her face?
Maggie
love
Smith.
Her.
Love Maggie Smith. Come on,
Maggie Smith. Don't tell anyone that I just called Maggie Smith. What's her face? Please,
Maggie Smith.
Mom's the word, you guys.
But all of them, Anna Bates. I'm in love with all of the characters. Yeah.
So okay. So thank you for that rant because I wanted it. Here's where I was watching this, and for about a year I've been like, where is Peggy? Who is Peggy? I need to know the real inspiration for this role, and I couldn't find a lot because I was like, I would like to know these upper crust Black people who lived in Brooklyn and led the fancy life. Why don't we talk about this? Mm-hmm. I found a woman who they say inspired the character of Peggy, named Julia C. Collins.
Oh.
They don't know that much about her.
Of course not.
But I'm going to talk about what they do know because I think it's important to round out our history, right? To round out all the things. And we're seeing now, like, this woman who did all these things. Well, where was she in our real history, right?
Love it.
So, one of the places I found stuff was from the Pennsylvania Center for the Book and Business Insider magazine online. Okay. Let's start by saying that they don't know much about her early life, but they believe that she was born a free woman in the North around 1842. We don't know her name at birth, like her last name. But the most promising theory was that she was the stepdaughter of Enoch Gilchrist. So the Gilchrist family was active in the local African-American Episcopal Church. They were active in politics and in the fight to gain legal rights for Black people. His obituary states that he was not only a friend of Frederick Douglass, but that, quote, he was personally known to President Lincoln. End quote.
Personally known.
His sister, right? Elizabeth Gilchrist was married to a well-known bishop, Joseph Pascal Thompson of the AME Zion Church, who she had most likely met in Williamsport. So Julia met when the former... Wait, what? I think I read that wrong earlier. I think she might have been... I think he was a former slave, her husband. Okay. And he came through Williamsport from Virginia on the Underground Railroad. So that's where we think she grew up. We think that that was her family life.
Okay.
So she became a school teacher for African-American children in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, according to an April 16th, 1864 issue of the Christian Recorder, which was a national newspaper of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. So Williamsport was an active station on the Underground Railroad. So she helped with that. So,
okay.
Now, that you're like listening and you're like, I've watched the Gilded Age, Miriam, and I don't know what you're talking about. See, again, and I think this relates to what you said about the British Age. Doing American stories. Mm-hmm. We could have gone here. I don't know that we did. But I'll get to a connection to her in a moment. Okay. So in 1850, African-American citizens had petitioned for a school building, but of course, no surprise to anybody, they did not get it. The school board, they have some documentation that they had authorized a salary for teachers for Black students, but the teacher had to provide the space, the materials, the everything. Okay. So, February 1853, she was employed for 3 months at $18 per month to teach Black children. They had to find the room, the stove, the fuel. They did get benches. They got benches. You could sit on some.
I mean, that's
Isn't that nice? So what we think we know is that the school term for Black children was 3 months. So she was employed for 3 months. That's like an annual school, whereas white children had school for 6 to 8 months.
So it's the opposite of like in school and then summer vacation.
Right. Exactly. Your summer. Yeah, exactly. She was teaching. So by a decade later, they would get a schoolroom. Isn't that nice of them?
A decade? Only 10 years. Oh.
It was only 10 years for them to have. Now, I don't know if they provided heat. I'm going to guess that they didn't.
Probably not.
I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. She wrote essays about racial uplift and empowerment in the Christian Recorder, including essays titled, quote, Mental Improvement, School Teaching, and Intelligent Women. She referenced the likes of Shakespeare, Alexander Pope, and Alfred Lord Tennyson. So some scholars believe that she was very well educated. Again, we're polling here. We're polling because we must know.
You investigating.
And we don't know enough.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm an investigator. Listen, all those detective shows I like, it's me. I'm the detective. Okay? You're welcome. You know, I'm on season like 13 of Murdoch. So
I know you love Murdoch.
I'm pretty sure I'm qualified.
Yes.
She writes, quote, her in the Christian Recorder, she writes, quote, we are born with faculties and power capable of almost anything. Who can measure our capacity or set bounds to our progression in knowledge? End quote. Cool. She marries Stephen Carlisle Collins, and that's when she gets a last name in history, Collins. And he ran a barbershop and served as a commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, which was a veterans organization for Civil War soldiers. And barbers and school teachers were considered higher status occupations for Black Americans in the 19th century. Yep, so they were both kind of like higher status. She published The Curse of Caste, or The Slave Bride, in serial form for over 8 months in 1865 in the Christian Recorder. So I'm going to talk about the novel for a second.
Okay.
It grappled with themes of racial identity, interracial marriage, and the injustices of slavery and racism. In the story, the character Lena is a mixed-race slave. She falls in love with Richard, who is a son of a New Orleans slave owner. Now, she's passing, but he discovers her identity, and they get married. His father is duly enraged and disinherits him. And I'm going to continue with the story. So the newlyweds flee north to Connecticut, but she dies in childbirth soon after. Richard, who believes that his baby daughter died also, returns to New Orleans to make peace with his father. Meanwhile, his orphan child, because he leaves the child, grows up not knowing who her parents were and not knowing that she's actually Black. The story abruptly ends just as the plot reaches the climax and resolution with a chance discovery of a reunion as Julia died suddenly of tuberculosis, November 1865. So she never finished the novel herself.
Oh,
but
no.
She did write it. I know.
Oh, man.
And African-American historians have sought to continue her legacy. In 2006, the Oxford University Press published her novel with 2 alternative endings. written by editors and scholars Mitch Ketchum and William Andrews. There's a quote from Ketchum. The fact is, she is exploring what could be a happy ending, an empowering ending in which marriage and civility are things that African American women can aspire to. And that is her. Again, the fact that she wrote a novel is what made them create the character of Peggy. So that's as close as I've found. I beg you, if you're listening and you know more, please let us know. Because I keep searching and I cannot find. This is the closest connection.
Yeah.
That I have, which is like, it's not Peggy's story. Like
No, I had heard that Peggy was also is probably like a lot of characters based on someone else, on a real life person. It's a composite character of perhaps Julia Collins and Ida B. Wells. But she started off being a writer, writing creative or short stories. Is that what she was writing for?
Yeah,
season?
she did. She published. Yeah,
and then
she
now
did a lot of. So there's that, and I was like, it's so not Ida B. Wells. Like, where else? It is. I get it.
I mean, it's turning into that now with that sexy man. She's working with his tall shoulders.
He's not unsexy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like unattracted to him. Like, I don't look at him and I think negative thoughts.
No, right. It's like,
but like, he's fine. Whatever.
Fine.
I roll. I need a minute. Walk away. I love my husband, and we move on. Right? It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my God. Mm-mm. No, that is so interesting though, that she wrote a novel. I've never heard of this woman. So I know. And I would like to read the novel. That's why I spent half the time reading the novel out loud. Right.
Because we had prolific women, Black women in 1860s, 1850s, and teaching the kids for $18 a month.
Oh, yeah.
With nothing. And it seems that she came from some money so she could provide a little bit for them.
Yeah.
But the idea that existed it needs to be told. We need to tell the whole
story of like, it's just amazing how people can live and then like a short while later people forget about them. Like it's weird. Like when I go on YouTube sometime and people are just now, this is this new thing where people are just discovering Thriller, the video. And people like, I watched one where this girl from Russia, a very pretty girl, was watching it. And I think Russian culture is that I couldn't tell what she was thinking while she was watching it. But then occasionally she would stop and she'd be like, this is amazing. She's like, all of this is so amazing. But it's just really weird to see people, or like they'll discover like something that was just 20 years ago and people are like, I've never heard this. And so, but how it reminds me of how easily and how quickly someone can be forgotten. So I'm not surprised that she was forgotten, even though she lived obviously a very young life, tragically ended, but she wrote a whole novel and we've, heard of.
Yeah, she wrote a whole novel. She was very highly educated. She was very smart. Yeah. She wrote a lot of essays as well.
Yeah.
To uplift women too. Yes, girl. Okay.
Yes, she is my kind of lady, and also a Gilded Age lady. Even though I ranted about the Gilded Age, I think you should watch it. It's getting there.
Yeah, watch it.
It's about 60% there. It's definitely better this season than it was last season. Because last season I was like, I don't know what's going on here.
I thought it odd that the character of Peggy didn't flinch a little when he said Alabama. That she is so disconnected from reality that they didn't have her think about it, take a deep breath and say, you know what? I want to go. Because that's all you needed to do.
Yeah.
It's all you needed to do.
I will say that I think I'm not, that didn't bother me too much because her mother Audrey McDonald's
Well, her
character
mother
is like, girl, you don't know what you're getting into. And I thought it was really interesting because we don't think of Black people, younger Black people, particularly during this period, as being naive, right? So I loved how, and her naivete comes from her family's wealth, like, you know, the fact that they are people of means. So, and I love that the mother's like, girl, you have no idea what you're getting into, you know. And then they go down there.
I just thought she needed like a second.
No, I know what you mean.
One second.
I know what you mean. Like
to be like, I'll be fine.
Yeah, because it's not like there's no prejudice and racism in the North. So that's a that's a misconception.
She should know that there's
it's even worse in the South.
Prejudice and racism.
Yeah. I mean, look at what the housekeeper.
And she would know that.
Yeah, is putting her through. Like, just refuses to engage with her, and like, no, I hear you, and that's what I mean about like that subtlety. Like, there's a way to do it, and I know that. Oh God, what's her name? She's so beautiful. Sally Richardson is an EP on it. You know who Sally Richardson is? She used to be an actress. No. I don't think she's acting anymore. The last big thing she did as an actor, which I love, is and now I can't think of the name of it. I do this often. It's Florida. The sci-fi show she was on with Papa Pope. Oh God, now I can't think of it. Now it's going to bother me. Eureka. Okay. Eureka. It was on Sci-Fi Channel, and you know anyway. So she has come on as an EP. She started directing a while ago, and so she's amazing. She's an African American woman, and so it's so funny because the first season people were like, "Well, the Black family is way more interesting than everyone else," and so I think I'm glad 100%. That they leaned into that. But no, you should watch The Gilded Age. I think so. Thank you for sharing that. Julia Collins, correct?
Julia C. Collins. Yes.
Julia C. Collins. I love how they would put that initial in there back in the day.
I know.
Now on to something else. So
okay. What are you going to do to me?
Miriam's what are you going to do to me? Foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
So you told us about Miss Julia C. Collins, who's this lovely lady who's giving back to the world. My lady wasn't really giving back. She was taking as much as she could. Not taken, but taking as much as she could. So my notorious woman this week is Evelyn Dick. Have you ever heard of Evelyn Dick?
No, but I have so many jokes. I don't know where to begin.
I know.
Go on.
I know. You're basically a 10-year-old boy, right? Okay.
I am.
Yeah.
Dick. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So
I did. I said Dick and then I giggled. I heard it.
Then you
giggled.
Go on. Yeah. Now, this is Notorious Women podcast plus Miriam's inner 10-year-old boy when he comes out.
Okay.
Now, some of my sources for today's story is from Brief Case, a YouTube channel that it's very good. You guys should subscribe to that channel on YouTube. The Canadian Encyclopedia, Murderpedia, and then the Canadian Archives at cbc.ca.
Leave
among
it
other
to
sources.
Lavetta to know Murderpedia. Go on.
You've never
heard?
On. Okay. Anyway, so this is going to be good. So Evelyn Dick was born on October 13th, 1920 in Beamsville, Ontario, Canada, to Scottish immigrants Donald and Alexandra McLean. So
that's my Scottish accent. I won't do it again. Go on.
Don't do it. We don't want to insult our
My
UK
bad.
listeners.
You're right. I agree.
Now, a year after her birth, the McLean family moved to Hamilton, where Donald, reportedly somewhat abusive alcoholic, worked for the Hamilton Street Railway Company. So even though this was an upgrade to the family's finances and the family's lives, it seemed that the family was living beyond their means. They were basically trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Listen, aren't we all?
I mean, people are, but apparently it's because even though he worked for the Hamilton Street Railway Company, he paid a pretty good salary, but not like an extravagant salary. It wasn't, everyone kind of knew what people were making back then. So the fact that they were able to send young Evelyn to the prestigious Loretto Academy, a private Catholic school for girls, raised some eyebrows because the school's tuition alone was very, very expensive. So they're like, how can this, middle class guy afford to send his, kids, his beautiful young daughter to school? Now, it seems that the McLeans had aspirations of, entering into, they're a bit thirsty, as we would say nowadays. Hence the, living beyond their means, and they wanted to rub elbows with high society, that kind of thing. But reportedly, to supplement his income, Donald was stealing money from the railway's vaults.
Oh, see, I was going to ask because my thing was like, now you can throw things on a credit card, but you couldn't do that back then.
You couldn't, right. That's a great point. Right? You couldn't do that. Yeah. And, Alexandra herself, she was really more of like, we want to aspire to the upper echelons, which is not a bad thing. That's an American way. You feel like you come to America, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Because you can change your status within one generation, unlike, other countries in Europe. So now, as Evelyn grew up, she grew into a very attractive, noticeably attractive young woman. And I think basically Alexandra, her mother, was like, okay, I got a pretty daughter. Let's see if we can get her to marry well. Maybe that's one way.
Let's exploit this. Yes.
And by all accounts and pictures, she was a very attractive woman. Not even just by like those standards during the day, like even today. Like she was a very attractive brunette woman. So Alexandra, and I don't know if because Alexandra and Donald were just not, they just weren't good at being like more slick about their aspirations, their status aspirations, or if they were just too impatient, right? They wouldn't be the first parents to put all their hopes and dreams into a beautiful daughter, right? But there's a way you have to move in the world because that is an asset, to a struggling family. And usually girls will go off to college and get married or like, that kind of thing, put them in beauty contests. I don't know, but, acting, that kind of thing.
When I look back at my childhood and all the things my parents did to exploit none of it. I'm just kidding.
But you know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem like they took that route, but Alexandra.
But that is kind of what you do. Oh, she's doing the beauty pageants for the scholarship because she's smart but also look how pretty she is.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what's going to entice. I mean, listen, I know some of my girlfriends, white girlfriends whose mothers are, of a particular age. They're like, oh, no, they literally used to just send white women to college to get married. Like, it's just literally what they used to do. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like they didn't really take that route, which is kind of puzzling to me. And I think it might be indicative of just the kinds of people they were. Just they didn't have the patience, maybe, because that takes planning, actually, and you have to be strategic. So, but she did encourage Evelyn to use her feminine charms to entice men into buying her expensive gifts like jewelry and furs, and fun. And that like immediate, and that's what I mean. It doesn't seem like they were very impatient because it's like they just wanted her to get the money and to play the long game. You kind of like, oh no, that's too much. And you know what I mean? You kind of like, you play a little bit more coy. You have to be a little bit more coy to entrap.
Yeah.
Entice, I should say entrap, but that's what they were trying to do.
You just said entrap, I heard you. But don't worry, I don't know how many men listen to us.
I know, especially a man from a well-off family because his mother is going to be on the lookout, right? But if the girl is nice, it is beautiful, the mother's thinking, I want beautiful grandchildren. But I also want to meet the parents. That there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into this. So it just seems like her parents were not really very patient people. So, so basically, like I said, the dream was to have Evelyn marry well, but that didn't seem to be working, or maybe it was just taking too long. So Alexandra started to get her daughters to just date older and wealthy men, because if you can't get the young wealthy ones, go for the older ones. But unfortunately, the older ones tend to be married.
They do.
So Evelyn just became basically like a good time girl, picking up different lovers, it seems, allegedly. So she started dating several wealthy and prominent men in town. She wasn't being they didn't have birth control either, because in July of 1942, she gave birth to a daughter, Heather.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Which means she was 22. Which she then gave the daughter over to her mother's care. So basically her mother started raising Heather because, Evelyn had to be free to go out and date as many men and get these gifts. I have a feeling it's kind of like a bad version of like being a concubine. They kind of want, instead of like marrying some young man, it's like, oh, well, maybe you can be the concubine of an older man. So it's all about the gifts and the money to help take care of the parents.
And this is like concubine number 3. This is not.
Yeah.
This was not the plan.
But she gave birth to Heather in 1942. Now, in September of 1944, she reportedly also gave birth to a boy named Peter she... Again, this is what happens when you have no birth control,
Yep.
But when she came home from the hospital without the baby, her neighbors, asked of her mother and her. And Evelyn said that she had given the child up for adoption at the Children's Aid Society because her father didn't want another child in the house. So she was still living with her parents at now 24. Okay.
Girl.
Now, I know. Again, they're not playing this right because she was very beautiful.
And listen, go to college.
All she needed was one semester, 1 year. She could have snagged her rich husband.
She could have got it. Seriously, just like one quarter. Go to a quarter system college.
And I mean, you know what? But also now that I'm thinking about it, it could be that this was during the war, World War II. So maybe there weren't a lot of younger men around also because they're all being drafted into the war. It could be that. But that's why you send them to college, because those guys did not get drafted.
Because those guys were not at war.
Yeah, rich guys.
Go to college, girl.
Rich white guys in college were not being drafted out of college. So
listen, they were rich. You major in home economics and you wink a lot. Boom. Dun, 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 dun.
It baffles me, but that may be perhaps because, obviously there's lesser stock around.
Fair.
But so now in the summer of 1945, Evelyn was now living actually with Heather as her daughter. So it seems that Heather always knew that Evelyn was her mother, but because really Alexandra just raised her, I wonder if it was one of those. This is very confusing for little Heather, I bet. It's just very confusing, I'm sure, as she got older. But by 1945, Alexandra had separated from Donald, Evelyn's mother. So she and her mother and her daughter were all these women were living in a house together. And Evelyn met a man by the name of John Dick, a Russian immigrant, 15 years her senior.
I will be giggling every time you say that. Okay.
And he was employed as a streetcar driver. Now, to explain the fact that she had a child but no ring, she told Dick that she was a widow of a naval officer who had died in the war, in the Second World War. So, makes sense?
See, that's quick thinking. That's quick thinking.
Now, apparently, Evelyn, for some reason, thought that John was well off. I don't know, maybe he was because he was a handsome guy. I don't know, but she thought maybe he was wining and dining her. So she believed that this was finally her ticket, because what is she, 25 at this point? She's like, I'm becoming an old maid. I need to lock this down. And so they actually married after only dating for a few weeks. They got engaged, actually.
Wow.
And so, so apparently Evelyn's parents didn't like Dick, and they actually didn't attend the small wedding that took place on October 4th, 1945. So, and it could be, I have a feeling that her parents were like, so no more dating other rich men? What's going on? Like,
yeah. Can you say her parents didn't like Dick one more time?
Nope, I'm not doing it. Nope. Because I'm not a 10-year-old boy. So now,
I am.
remember when I said that Evelyn thought Dick had money?
Yeah.
John Dick had money.
John Dick. You keep calling him Dick.
I did it. See, you're in my head now. Okay.
All right.
So apparently, John did not have money. He was not as well off as she thought he was. That's something you would find out if you didn't date him for only a few weeks before you married him.
Yeah, that's why it's like, have a conversation, say, let me see your books. You know what I'm saying?
Just
like you can't.
Because apparently they moved into a house together and she made the down payment. So that alone, but if you're dating for a year, then you really get to see, or 6 months. They didn't even date 6 months before they got married. So, it's like, just wait till the end of the year. If it's the summer, can you wait till the end of the year to get engaged and then get married?
Okay.
So
little Christmas engagement, little May wedding. Okay.
Maybe she was just tired of dating all these rich men for her parents. But it turned out Evelyn's like, you ain't got no money? I'm out. Peace out, player. She resumed her affair with one of her many older rich men, a man by the name of Bill Bohozik. And John at first was like, okay. So he was like, I love you. This is going to work. Apparently he was obsessed with her. Again, she's a very beautiful woman. So he probably thought, I hit the jackpot. Beautiful young woman. She's smart. She seems to be, have her wits about her. So I hit the jackpot. Now, so John is like, I'm going to keep my woman. I'm going to work this out. But it didn't really go well. Reportedly, their marriage was volatile, a lot of arguments, just back and forth. Mainly because he had no money and Evelyn refused to give up her relationships with Bohozik and her other rich boyfriends.
I feel like my husband would have a little bit of an opinion about that.
Just a tiny bit.
If I was like, I love you, I will stay with you, but I still have these rich boyfriends that I'm going to keep having sex with.
Yeah.
What's the problem? What's wrong?
I feel like Evelyn's motto was, ain't nothing going on but the rent, because she's like, I'm about that cash dollar bill, baby. But Evelyn, that's why you got to choose better. I'm just saying. Now, so he moved out of their home, which the deed was in Evelyn's name because she put down the down payment, and he moved in with a cousin of his. Now, he did not give up on the marriage, though, reportedly, and so he appealed to Evelyn's father, Donald.
Okay.
But Donald was like, I ain't even like you little herb, or you little scrub. That's what he said, scrub, like that. So,
literally.
That's what Don. But Donald's like, dude, I wasn't checking for you anyway. Like,
right?
Get out of here.
What are you talking to me for? Yeah.
Now, so John got mad that Donald wouldn't help him and kind of scoffed him off and brushed him off. So then he threatened Evelyn's father, Donald McLean, that he would inform. He would tell authorities that Donald had been stealing from the railway. Which is something that Evelyn had revealed to him during their because they were married. So
the plot thickens.
So Donald was like, really, motherfucker? I will kill you. Okay. So John believed Donald because I have a feeling that Donald's like an old school Scottishman. Like he. Yeah. So John goes to the authorities. Bad move. Because then John Dick disappeared.
Interesting.
The first week of March of 1946.
Damn. He did not last long in this family. Or in
less
this
than
world.
a year. Less than a year. So reportedly he was last seen on March 6th at a Hamilton restaurant. Now, 10 days later, on March 16th, some children were hiking along a trail on Hamilton Mountain, part of the Niagara Falls encarpment, and they found a human torso with 2 gunshot wounds in the chest. Mm-hmm.
How many human torsos are we going to be talking about on this podcast? Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. That was not a good day for these children. Okay.
They Hannah Mary tabbed it. You guys should look up that episode.
Yeah.
So,
yes, please do.
But also the amount of energy it takes to remove a torso from a human body is just...
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Of course, I'm going to say this. The remains were identified as that of John Dix.
Yep.
And so also, like with most murders, suspicions quickly will turn to a spouse or partner, and they turn to Evelyn. Now, police took Evelyn in for questioning, but she denied any knowledge of John's, of where John was. And she first had one story, and then she changed the story, and then she changed it again. Every time she told the story, basically, Evelyn changed her story. But one of the stories that she told was that an Italian gangster had called her up and said that your husband's been fucking around with my girl, so he got what was coming to him, and now you need to meet me. So she met with him. And he had killed John, and there was blood on the seat, and he had wrapped him up in like a casing, a cover for the seat, for the car seat, and all that. It's just wild stuff. And then took her to some place where they found the torso, but he threatened her. And then real. So basically, she was blaming it on the Italians, the mob. Blame the mob. It's always the mob.
The Italians.
The Italians, of course. Right? White on white crime is what I like to call it. So
that's what it is.
Listen, the mob usually be doing what the mob does. But I would say if the mob did it, you wouldn't have found no torso.
Well, first of all, that torso would never be found. Second of all, why does the mob care about your husband?
Yeah.
What has what?
This is the most white lady thing ever. It's like, she was just like, and then, like, are they going to believe you? Because every time you come in, you tell a different story, Evelyn. Okay. Now, while on one of these occasions, because they brought her in several different times, because the first time they brought her in, she confessed and said this. But then her lawyer was like, nah. She asked for a lawyer. And so then they brought her in and she told another story and then another story. So,
oh my God, girl.
But one of these times while she was being questioned, investigators were searching her house. And in the attic, they found a suitcase that contained a concrete encased body of an infant.
Oh, shit. You know what? I knew that baby was coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Obviously, it had proved to be Peter. Yes, the little boy that she said she had given up for adoption. Why keep...
Damn.
The body. I don't like if he had died, so obviously when you find there's a torso and you find an infant's encased body in concrete in a person's house, you're like, these motherfuckers did it. So, right?
Yeah.
So, eventually Evelyn was like, I didn't really do anything. I had accomplices and all this stuff. So eventually though, Evelyn, her parents and Bill Bohozuk were charged with the murder of John Dick. Okay.
Oh, shit.
And then Evelyn and Bill were charged with infanticide because of young Peter, because Bill was reportedly young Peter's son.
Oh.
And then Donald was also charged with robbing the Hamilton Railway, job of robbing them of money, of thousands of dollars. And so everybody's in the shit can, as they say. Evelyn's attorney smartly moved to have her tried separately from Bill and Donald in the hope that it would allow her to appear before the jury as a young, attractive woman who was just incapable of committing murder, like who just wasn't smart enough or just incapable enough of cutting up a body so the torso is separate. I know. Now they move quick in Canada, and maybe because of the gruesomeness and the fact there's this beautiful woman at the center and all of this behind the scenes. So her trial began on October 7th, 1946. So it began really quickly.
Wow. That's fast.
quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Hamilton's Wentworth County Courthouse. But things got even messier once the trial began, because not only was it a media circus dominating the headlines of tales of Evelyn's dalliances with many of these rich and powerful older and married men coming out, but eventually Alexandra, Evelyn's mother, turned snitch.
Oh, shit.
She agreed to testify for the crown against her daughter in return for immunity.
No.
And
what?
Yes,
Damn.
Girl.
These people. Okay.
It's like, this is like, it is like a telenovela. It was amazing. So now, so in her testimony against Evelyn, she stated that she had been absent from the house for a prolonged period of time on March 6th, the last day that John Dick had been seen. And then she said on March 8th, she had asked Evelyn if something had happened to John. And according to her, Evelyn responded that he wouldn't be coming around anymore, because basically he had been harassing them, trying to get back with her. And then he made the threat to Don and da-da-da. And Alexandra also testified that her husband, or ex-husband at this point, or almost, owned a handgun and a large butcher's knife.
Oh, well, I mean, perhaps that's all you need. Okay.
Yeah, that's all you need. So, so I know, crazy, right? Alexandra's like, see, what had happened was, she started singing like a bird. Let me tell you
everything.
Now, there's been stuff made about this, but this could be a whole series. Like, it's just like, it reminds me of kind of like, I feel like it could have been like a really good movie in the 1930s, like a black and white movie starring Lana Turner or something, you know?
Yes.
Now, despite the evidence being mostly circumstantial around Evelyn's movements, you know, but despite all of that, her somewhat strong, notorious connections in high society, because you would think that these high, you know, falutin men, these highly connected men would help her. But she was eventually convicted of murder in 1946 and sentenced to hang on January 7th, 1947.
But why didn't those men go to help her? I'm actually surprised, because then they can't have sex with her anymore if she's dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think it would be nice of them. I think it would be like selfish in the way I would expect.
I mean,
you know?
I would imagine that they would be concerned about being canceled, like, you know, from their jobs and the fallout, that kind of thing, and especially if they're married. Now, the judge sentenced her to death, but her attorneys were able to successfully appeal the next month.
Okay.
So her case was then taken over by a man by the name of John J. Robinette, and he was a very skilled courtroom lawyer. And he was known for his defensive strategies at trial. And he actually impressed upon the jury in the second trial that it was a strong possibility that Donald had killed John Dick, because of what had come out. And that makes a lot more sense when you think Torso had appeared also. So
I don't think that she did the whole thing by herself. Like, because I mean, as we discussed earlier, I'm a detective. And I don't think
all right, Perry
that all
Mason.
of that. So that's my new name. Perrietta Mason.
Perrietta
Thank
Mason.
you.
Okay.
Just too much to do to disassemble a body.
I mean, I don't know why they didn't take this tactic in the first trial, because that makes a lot more sense, and that's a smart way to approach it, and it worked. Because this time the jury just found her not guilty. And in his trial, they actually convicted Don McLean of being an accessory after the fact in the murder of John Dick, specifically for dismembering the corpse in the basement of the home. Yeah. And then burning the some of the body parts in the furnace. He was sentenced to 5 years, but he was also sentenced for theft from his... He was stealing from his thieving. Company. Yeah. So he was given an additional 5 years for that. And then Bill Bohozuk was cleared of all charges. Bill got off because Bill had the money and the connections. Now, it wasn't quite over for Evelyn, because she was then put on trial for young Peter's, the infant's murder. And at this time,
fuck her.
Yeah.
Fuck her up the ass. Yeah.
It was like, okay. Peppery language.
Listen, don't fuck with children. I get angry.
Don't fuck with children. It's true. Now,
you can give the child up for adoption. Girl, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. That's that could be the second season of the series. Because it was speculated during this time that she had slept with over 150 men, including the judge's own son.
Okay.
So I think that that's obviously an exaggeration. But she was on both counts. She was found of actually of the infant's murder. She was found of manslaughter, guilty of manslaughter, and the judge sentenced her to life imprisonment on November 10th, 1958. But she
a while later.
She was released after 11 years. For probably good behavior. And then in the 1980s, interestingly enough, she was granted a royal pardon.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe new evidence came to light about it. There has been some stuff in some of the research. I know I found that there was some weird stuff going on, family dynamics going on in the house. Like, she should have been, one of the reasons maybe they didn't send her off to college to snag a rich husband is because the parents were dependent on her. They were controlling of her. They didn't want her out of their sight. And they basically wanted her to be their meal ticket. It could have been that. So just some family dynamics that were going on. Because again, when you see her, you're like, oh, she's a very lovely woman. She could have easily snagged a husband at college, right?
Right.
But the parents just didn't want her out of their sight, pretty much. They were controlling of her. That's one of the theories.
There might be this whole layer of abuse in her childhood that we didn't even talk about. Yeah. That is definitely affecting her choices and actions. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So all of this, so that happens, and all of this, technically, John Dick's murder has never been officially solved because she was acquitted of it. She was found not guilty. And her father was convicted on accessory after the fact they could prove that he chopped up the body. But technically, it has not been officially solved. Now, as you can imagine, one last thing here. Yeah, as you can imagine, a lot of the TV and film projects have been produced for this, around this, because this is a crazy story, including a play, How Could You, Mrs. Dick, that came out in 1989, a television drama called Torso, the Evelyn Dick story that came out in 2002, and a film noir musical called Black Widow from 2005, as well as several books. So that is Evelyn Dick, known as part of the Torso murder. The Torso murder.
I wonder, because, we know a lot more about postpartum depression and the realities of that maybe she did do what she did to her baby, but that let's say she had been so crazy abused her whole life, right? And her whatever was happening in her chemicals in her brain, and postnatally knowing what she was bringing the baby back to, she might have done it, but she might have been in such a state. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure how,
babies died back then, of all kinds of things. And because I find it odd that she would keep the baby's body. That makes me feel like the baby died and something happened, and then she just couldn't let the baby go, or I don't know.
Or she thought it was, or she did something that killed the baby, that she was then horrified by it, so she kept it by her. There's so much keyboard psychology that I could come up with right now that I am super not qualified to come up with, that I can think of, that because it doesn't, a lot of these things don't fully add up. Yeah. In her story, in the story.
Honestly, I think there's something going on with her and the parents, because I can't the fact that her and Bill had such a long-term relationship that produced a child, but they were still together. Why didn't he set her up? Why didn't he set her up in her own home? Why didn't he, you know what I mean? Right. Why wasn't she, in essence, became his mistress, long-term mistress? I mean, she was, why wasn't she set up in a way Because again, when you look up pictures of her, you're like, oh, that's a beautiful woman. She could have been played by a young Angelina Jolie, like a very she's like a siren, like a dark haired siren, like beautiful girl, young woman. So,
I think you're right that there's something off with the parents.
Yeah,
there's something. I don't believe she had sex with 150 different men. I'm just going to go ahead and say that.
It's like, guys, she could be a terrible person and not. You don't have to slut shame her. Right. Like
you don't need to. And she could have wanted to have sex with the men that she did have sex with, and that's fine. Rock out.
Yeah, it sounds
it's the murder I'm judging. I'll judge murder. Thank you.
Yeah, we judge the murder and the kids. It's 10 to 20 guys is like, oh my God, and those numbers are so high. And they're like, oh, it's like 150 men. And it's like, I mean, even if she wants to sleep with 150 men, that's her prerogative. But
listen, all I say is STDs are real, girl. Maybe not. But
yes, back then, yes.
But that's another theory that I have because, again, Perietta Mason, ready and at your service. Some of those STDs, they fuck with your brain.
Yeah, or the treatments for them. Yeah.
Oh, the treatments for them back then, not great. And so they could encourage actions that are not really you.
Yeah.
Right? That it's because it's fucking with your brain, It
is crazy. And I also suspect that I allegedly, I think the father did it and then told her about it afterwards.
Okay.
Because when he threatened to tell the railway I would have killed him if I was a father. Like, you got to go. You got to disappear. So, I mean, that's just me, but
I mean, that's a theory. That's a theory.
Yeah. well, that's a theory. Tell us what you guys think, dear listeners. And that wraps up another episode of Notorious Women Podcast. Guys, remember to follow us on all the things. You also please write a 5-star review in the Apple Store or in Spotify.
Yes, please.
We really, really appreciate it. Also, you can support the show at patreon.com, and that's Patreon, patreon.com/notoriouswomen. And Miriam, how else can they support the show?
Funny you ask. I can answer that question. So we have an Instagram. It's Notorious Women Podcast. It's so easy. Just go to Notorious Women Podcast. Follow us, like our things. And DM us if you want to DM us there. That's cool. We check that. But you can also email us at notoriouswmpod@gmail.com with any thoughts or ideas or accusations, right? That we were wrong because # not historians.
Right.
But we'll fix it on a later episode if we were. What else? Oh, we have a TikTok.
Yep.
TikTok. I won't keep singing. We can't afford it. It's also Notorious Women Podcast. And that, we have a YouTube channel. You can.
That's right.
That's right. You can go to YouTube and we're there. It's Notorious Women Podcast. We're pretty easy to find, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, on that note, guys, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.